The COVID-19 pandemic sparked the need to think about how to implement intensive intervention virtually. In this video, we feature 5 resources developed by the National Center on Intensive Intervention and partners to support educators and parents in the delivery of intensive intervention virtually. Many of these resources can continue to be important as we think about extending and maximizing learning opportunities for students with the most intensive needs and as we prepare for future disruptions to in-person schooling. Resource number 5. One of the critical features of intensive intervention is ongoing progress monitoring. In number 5, we have frequently asked questions on collecting progress monitoring data virtually. This resource provides questions for educators and administrators to consider as they rethink how to implement progress monitoring virtually. Resource number 4. In number 4, we have maintaining, screening, and progress monitoring practices in virtual and remote settings. We know collecting data is important, but how do we do it? This resource was developed by Sarah Thord, an elementary reading specialist from Clatskanie School District in Oregon, as part of a community of practice that NCII hosted during spring 2020 to support educators with implementing intensive intervention virtually. View this resource to help schools plan for implementation of virtual screening and progress monitoring, and view video examples to see how to implement passage reading fluency virtually using screen share and Zoom breakout rooms. Resource number 3. In addition to collecting data, educators also need to think about how to deliver lessons virtually and engage with parents and families to support students with intensive needs. In number 3, we have a collection of tip sheets and video examples for parents and educators to facilitate their use of the NCII sample lessons in reading and mathematics. These lessons provide short instructional routines to encourage multiple practice opportunities using explicit instruction principles. Educators can view a short video to see how to implement the lesson virtually and access a tip sheet for implementation as well as a tip sheet for how to support parents and families. Parents or grandparents can learn tips for implementing the lessons at home and watch 2 video examples to see how to support the lesson with their child to provide additional practice opportunities. Looking for more resources to support parents? The IRIS Center developed a training module to help parents support learning during the pandemic, and the Meadows Center for Preventing Educational Risk has developed a number of video examples to help parents support literacy and math development at home. Resource number 2. In number 2, we have a collection of virtual lesson examples and implementation resources developed by educators for educators. These lessons were developed as part of the NCII Community of Practice during spring 2020 and include sample schedules, illustrations of how to develop, structure, and deliver virtual math and literacy lessons, and more. And finally, our number 1 resource. In number 1, we bring all the parts of intensive intervention together in the guide Going Virtual, Considerations for Adjusting Database Individualization Implementation in Response to COVID-19. This guide recognizes that although the context and environment in which instruction is provided may have changed during the pandemic, the focus on providing high-quality interventions with validated practices, monitoring student progress, and adapting and intensifying supports based on student data as outlined in the DBI process continues to be applicable across virtual, in-person, or hybrid models. Walking through each step of DBI, this resource provides actionable considerations for ways in which educators can modify their approaches accordingly in order to support virtual delivery. Now that you know what NCII has to offer around virtual learning, see for yourself. All of these resources and more can be found on the National Center on Intensive Intervention's website by clicking on the button saying COVID-19 Resources. Use the tabs to navigate to specific resources related to behavior supports, data collection and teaming, and more. While you're at it, don't forget to explore all of the other resources and tools available at intensiveintervention.org.